The call was supposed to last 30 seconds. Just instructions, just numbers, just another poor girl agreeing to do something she didn't fully understand. She stood near the back door of a closed convenience store, phone pressed to her ear, rain dripping from the awning above her head. Her voice was quiet, polite, almost apologetic. Then she mentioned one name, not loudly, not dramatically, just in passing. The man on the other end of the line stopped breathing. In a penthouse office miles away, the Mafia boss froze mid-sentence. His hand tightened around the phone. His men fell silent. "Say that name again," he said slowly. The girl frowned, confused. "Why?" The line went dead. He ended the call, and in that moment every plan in motion changed. Because the name she said didn't belong to the poor, the desperate, or the forgettable. It belonged to someone who was supposed to be buried. Backhand index pointing right, stay till the end, because one careless sentence would expose a lie that had survived for years and force the most dangerous man in the city to choose between silencing her or protecting her. The laundromat on Delancey Street stayed open 24 hours, but after midnight it felt like a place the city had forgotten. Half the fluorescent lights flickered. One vending machine hummed without offering anything useful. Outside, the street was damp from an earlier rain, reflecting passing headlights like broken glass. Lena Morales sat on the plastic chair closest to the back wall, elbows on her knees, phone pressed to her ear. She hated phone calls, they always meant someone wanted something. "Yeah," she said quietly, "I'm here." The voice on the other end didn't bother with greetings. "You're late." Lena glanced at the clock above the change machine. 12:08 a.m. I said I'd be here by midnight. It's close enough. A pause. "Don't get smart," the voice warned. Lena swallowed. I'm just saying I came, did I?" She scanned the laundromat without meaning to. A man slept slumped over a dryer. A woman folded clothes with mechanical focus. No one was listening, at least that's what she thought. "You have the bag?" the voice asked. Lena shifted, her fingers tightening around the strap of the canvas tote at her feet. "Yes, good." "You'll drop it where we said?" "And then that's it?" she asked. "We're even?" Another pause, longer this time. "You do your part," the voice said, "and you go back to being invisible." That word again, invisible, Lena bit the inside of her cheek. Being invisible was the one thing she'd never had to pretend at. She'd grown up in a 2-bedroom apartment with 5 people, learned early how to move quietly, how not to take up space. She worked mornings cleaning offices downtown and evenings at a grocery store off the highway. No savings, no safety net, just enough to keep her mother's rent paid and her younger cousin in school. She didn't get involved until someone decided she already was. "I just want this over," she said. "It will be," the voice replied, "as long as you don't talk to anyone." "I'm not talking," Lena said. "I never do." She shifted again, the canvas bag brushing against her ankle. "I mean it," she added. "I haven't told anyone, not even," she stopped herself. "Not even who?" the voice pressed. Lena frowned, distracted. "No one. Just my aunt used to say keeping quiet was how you survive." She learned that the hard way, after what happened to Rosa Calderon. The words left her mouth without thought, without weight, without intention. Silence slammed into the lines so hard it felt physical. "Say that name again," the voice said slowly. Lena straightened. "What? You heard me." Her heart began to race. "Why, it doesn't matter, I was just—" "Say the name." She hesitated, suddenly aware of how loud the machine sounded, how exposed she felt sitting there. "Rosa Calderon," Lena repeated. "Why are you—" The call ended. The line went dead. Lena stared at her phone, confused. "Hello," she said, pulling it away from her ear and checking the screen. No call, no connection. Her stomach twisted. That had never happened before. Usually they told her when to hang up. She stood slowly, slinging the bag over her shoulder. A bad feeling crawled up her spine, the kind she'd learned not to ignore. Across the laundromat, the woman folding clothes glanced up, eyes narrowing slightly. Lena forced herself to breathe. "You didn't do anything wrong," she told herself. You just said a name. 15 miles away, on the top floor of a glass tower overlooking the river, a man stood perfectly still. The phone in his hand buzzed softly, disconnected. Around him, 6 men waited without speaking. The city glowed beyond the windows, orderly and distant, like a map instead of a place people lived and died. Gabriel Knox lowered the phone slowly. No one dared to interrupt him. He walked to the bar, poured himself a drink he didn't touch, then set the glass down with careful precision. "Run that name," he said quietly. One of the men hesitated. "Boss?" Gabriel turned. His face was calm, too calm. "Rosa Calderon," he repeated. Now the room shifted. Another man pulled out a tablet, fingers moving fast. A third stepped toward the door, already speaking into an earpiece. Gabriel stared out at the river, jaw tight. Rosa Calderon had been a problem, then she'd been a mistake, then she'd been erased. Officially, Rosa Calderon had died 10 years ago in a warehouse fire that never made the news. No family, no records worth keeping. Clean, too clean. And now a poor girl in a laundromat had said her name like it belonged to an old story. Like it wasn't supposed to be buried. Gabriel's grip tightened on the edge of the bar. "Find the girl," he said. "I want everything, where she lives, who she knows, how she learned that name." "Yes, sir," someone replied. "And cancel the drop," Gabriel added. "Nothing moves until I understand this." A beat. "What if she's lying?" one of the men asked. Gabriel's eyes hardened. "She didn't sound like someone who was lying," he said. "She sounded like someone who didn't know she'd stepped on a landmine." Back in the laundromat, Lena fed quarters into a machine she didn't need just to look normal. Her phone buzzed. A new message. "Unknown, stay where you are," her breath caught. She typed back before she could stop herself. "Lena, who is this?" 3 dots appeared, then vanished. Then appeared again. "Unknown, you shouldn't have said that name." Her hands began to shake. "Lena, I don't understand." No reply. She looked around again, heart hammering now, the sense of being watched pressing in on her from all sides. The bag on her shoulder felt heavier than before. The machines rattled and spun. Outside, a black car rolled slowly past the window and didn't stop. Lena didn't know why her chest felt tight. She didn't know who Rosa Calderon really was. She didn't know that a single careless sentence had just reached a man powerful enough to rewrite lives and dangerous enough to end them. All she knew was this: she had mentioned one name casually, and somewhere far away, a mafia boss had frozen and ended the call. Lena left the laundromat 10 minutes later than she planned. Not because she had anything else to do there, but because stepping outside felt like stepping into the wrong part of a story, one where she didn't know the rules anymore. The street was mostly empty now. A bus hissed past at the corner. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked once and then went quiet. Her phone stayed silent. That bothered her more than if it had kept buzzing. She walked fast, tote bag pressed against her side, senses stretched thin. Every car that passed seemed to slow just a little. Every shadow felt intentional. "You're imagining it," she told herself. "You're tired, that's all." But the words from the message echoed anyway. "You shouldn't have said that name." Across the city, the silence meant something else entirely. Gabriel Knox sat at the head of the long conference table, hands folded, eyes fixed on nothing in particular. No one spoke unless spoken to. No one moved unless necessary. A tablet slid across the table toward him. "First pass," one of his men said. "Girl's name is Lena Morales. 26, no record, 2 jobs, lives in a rent-controlled building on Delancey with her mother." Gabriel didn't touch the tablet. "And the name?" he asked. The man hesitated. Rosa Calderon existed, barely. Records show a birth certificate in Texas, a nursing license that was revoked after an incident, and a warehouse fire listed as cause of death. Gabriel's jaw tightened. "That fire was supposed to erase her," he said quietly. "Yes," the man replied. "It did officially." Gabriel leaned back in his chair. "Then explain how a girl like Lena Morales says her name like she's talking about a neighbor," he said. No one answered. Find the connection, Gabriel continued. Family work favors anything. Another man spoke up. Boss, if this name is back in circulation. It's not, Gabriel cut in. Not unless someone let it be. That was the problem. Rosa Calderon hadn't been killed because she was weak. She'd been killed because she knew something she shouldn't have, and because someone inside Gabriel's own organization had decided cleaning up was easier than answering questions. And now the past had spoken back. Lena reached her apartment building and unlocked the door with shaking hands. Her mother was asleep on the couch, TV murmuring low. Lena paused, watching her chest rise and fall, feeling the familiar tug of responsibility tighten in her stomach. She didn't wake her. In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection. Same tired eyes, same cheap hoodie, same girl who cleaned offices and kept her head down. Nothing about her explained what had just happened. Her phone buzzed again. She jumped. Unknown, where did you hear the name? Lena's throat went dry. She typed slowly, carefully. Lena, I don't know what you're talking about. The reply came almost instantly. Unknown, don't lie. Her hands trembled harder now. Lena, my aunt used to talk about her. That's all 3 dots. Gone. Then a longer pause. Minutes passed. Lena sat on the edge of the tub, heart racing, counting her breaths like she'd learned to do when anxiety crept too close. Finally, the phone buzzed again. Unknown, which aunt? She stared at the screen. Answering felt dangerous. Not answering felt worse. Lena, Marisol. Another pause, longer this time. Gabriel Knox stood by the window, watching the city lights blink in orderly patterns below. Marisol Morales, he said aloud. One of his men nodded. She worked night shifts at Mercy East Clinic 10 years ago. Gabriel closed his eyes briefly. Of course she did. Rosa Calderon hadn't been careless. She distrusted the wrong people, but she'd always planned for contingencies. Nurses talked. Women working nights learned to rely on each other. And Marisol, Gabriel asked. Clean record, no known ties to us, the man replied. She left healthcare shortly after the fire. Gabriel turned back to the table. Then Rosa told her something, he said, and Marisol passed it down without knowing what it was worth. Do we eliminate the girl? Someone asked quietly. The room went still. Gabriel's gaze snapped to the speaker. No, he said coldly. We understand her first. The man swallowed. Yes, boss. Gabriel exhaled slowly. If Rosa Calderon's name was surfacing now, it meant something unfinished had been buried too shallow, and unfinished things had a way of demanding attention. Lena didn't sleep that night. She lay awake listening to the building creak, to the distant sounds of traffic, to her own thoughts spiraling faster the longer she tried to stop them. Who was asking these questions? Why did they care about a woman who'd supposedly died years ago? And what exactly had her aunt been mixed up in? At 6:03 a.m. her phone rang. She nearly dropped it. This time it wasn't unknown. It was a number with no name attached. She answered. Yes, Lena Morales, a man's voice said calmly. This is Gabriel Knox. Her breath caught. You don't know me, he continued. But I know enough about you to say this honestly, you're not in trouble. Her voice shook. Then why are you calling me? Because, Gabriel replied, you said a name that belongs to a closed chapter. She swallowed. I didn't mean to. I know, he said. That's why I ended the call. There was something strange in his tone, not anger, not threat, control. I need you to tell me everything your aunt ever said about Rosa Calderon, Gabriel continued. Every detail, no editing. And if I do, Lena asked quietly, a pause. Then others will start asking, Gabriel said, and they won't care whether you meant it or not. Her heart pounded. You're scaring me, she whispered. I'm trying not to, he replied. That's the difference. Silence hung between them. Finally, Lena said, Can I see my aunt first? Gabriel considered. Yes, he said, but not alone. Her chest tightened. You're watching me. I already am, he said simply. The line went dead. Lena stared at the phone in her hand, understanding one terrifying truth. The man who froze at her words hadn't done so out of weakness. He had done it because her casual sentence had reopened a grave he'd personally helped dig. And now, whether she liked it or not, she was standing at the edge of whatever had been buried there. Lena didn't go to work that morning. For the first time in years, she texted her supervisor a simple lie family emergency and turned her phone face down on the kitchen table. Her mother noticed immediately. "You sick?" her mother asked, peering over a mug of coffee. "No," Lena said too quickly, "just need to see Aunt Marisol." Her mother's expression shifted, not fear, something older, tired. "Why?" she asked. Lena hesitated. "I had a dream," she lied, "about her." It was close enough to the truth to pass. Marisol lived in a small duplex in Queens, the kind of place built in the 70s and never updated because no one thought it was worth the money. When Lena knocked, the door opened almost immediately, as if her aunt had been waiting. "You look pale," Marisol said, stepping aside. "Come in," Lena did and stopped short. Two men stood in the living room, not threatening, not casual either. They didn't look at her. They were waiting. Marisol closed the door behind her. "You talked," she said softly. Lena's chest tightened. "I didn't mean to." Marisol sighed and leaned against the door like she'd been holding herself upright by force of habit alone. "It doesn't matter anymore," she said. "It was always going to surface." One of the men stepped forward. "We'll wait outside." Marisol nodded. When they were alone, Lena whispered, "Auntie, who was Rosa Calderon?" Marisol's eyes closed. "For you," she said, "she was a story I should have stopped telling." She motioned to the couch. Lena sat, Marisol didn't. "She worked with me at Mercy East," Marisol began. "Nights, ICU." She was sharp, too sharp. Lena swallowed. "Sharp how?" "She noticed patterns," Marisol said. "Patients admitted under fake names, men who weren't sick enough to be there, money that didn't match the charts." Lena's stomach twisted. "She kept notes," Marisol continued. "Names, dates, places." Lena's heart began to pound. Why would she do that? Marisol looked at her. Because she was trying to stay alive. The room felt smaller. "She came to me one night," Marisol said quietly, shaking. "Told me if anything happened to her, I was supposed to remember one thing." "What?" Lena asked. Marisol hesitated. "Gabriel Knox," she said. Lena's breath caught. "She said if that name ever resurfaced, it meant someone had broken the agreement," Marisol continued. "Someone powerful." Lena whispered, "She trusted him?" Marisol nodded. "She thought he was different." Across the city, Gabriel Knox sat in his office, staring at a digital recreation of a warehouse fire from 10 years earlier. The fire hadn't been an accident, it had been a message. And it had been ordered by a man Gabriel had since buried politically and literally. "What if Rosa survived?" One of his men asked quietly. Gabriel didn't answer, because he'd asked himself that question every year since. Marisol's voice shook now. "They told me she died," she said. "Fire. No remains, closed case." "But she didn't," Lena said. Marisol met her eyes. "No," Lena's blood ran cold. "Then where is she?" The front door knocked, 3 sharp taps. Marisol stiffened. The door opened. Gabriel Knox stepped inside. Lena stood instinctively, heart slamming against her ribs. He looked older up close, not weak, just worn. "You shouldn't have come alone," he said calmly. Lena found her voice. "You said I could see her." "I did," Gabriel replied, "and now I'm here to finish the conversation." Marisol stared at him. "You promised her protection." Gabriel's jaw tightened. "I promised to contain the damage." "That's not the same thing," Marisol snapped. "No," he agreed. "It is." Lena's voice trembled. "Is she alive?" Silence filled the room. "Yes," Gabriel said. The word hit like a punch. "Where?" Lena demanded. Gabriel looked at her fully now. "Hidden because the people she exposed weren't finished." Marisol whispered, "You let them think she was dead." "Yes," Gabriel said, "because it was the only way to keep her breathing." Lena felt dizzy. "Then why does her name matter now?" Gabriel exhaled slowly. "Because someone inside my organization reopened an account tied to her case," he said. "And when you said her name, it meant someone had talked." Marisol laughed bitterly. "Or someone remembered." Gabriel's gaze flicked to Lena. You, he said, are that memory. The air felt heavy. You're using me, Lena said. No, Gabriel replied. I'm protecting you because I already failed her once. Marisol crossed her arms. Then do better this time. A phone buzzed. Gabriel checked it. His expression darkened. They know you know, he said. And now they know about Lena. Lena's stomach dropped. What does that mean? Gabriel met her eyes. It means, he said, you're no longer incidental. Gunshots echoed faintly somewhere outside. Marisol flinched. Gabriel turned to Lena. You're coming with me. I didn't agree. You don't get to agree anymore, Gabriel said quietly. Not if you want to live. Lena's breath shook. I just said a name. Yes, Gabriel said, and that name just collapsed 10 years of silence. As they stepped toward the door, Lena realized something terrifying and unavoidable. Rosa Calderon hadn't just been a woman, she'd been a fault line. And Lena, by speaking her name casually, had cracked the ground wide open. The car didn't stop at a safe house. That was the first thing Lena noticed. It didn't pull into an underground garage or behind iron gates like she half expected. Instead, Gabriel's driver took them onto the highway, heading south, the city skyline shrinking behind them as if it were deliberately being left out of whatever came next. Lena sat in the back seat, hands folded tightly in her lap, Aunt Marisol beside her, silent and rigid. Where are we going? Lena finally asked. Gabriel sat across from them, his attention fixed on the road ahead. Somewhere neutral. That doesn't sound safe, Marisol said. No, Gabriel replied calmly. It sounds honest. The car sped up. An hour later, they arrived at an old shipping terminal near the waterfront. Most of the buildings were abandoned now, rusted doors, faded company names barely visible under layers of grime. The place looked forgotten. That was the point. Gabriel stepped out first, scanning the area before motioning them to follow. Two men flanked them at a distance, not hovering but close enough to react. Inside one of the warehouses, lights flicked on to reveal a long table already occupied. 4 men sat waiting. Lena recognized none of them, but she felt the tension immediately, the kind that crawled up your spine and made you want to turn around even when you knew you couldn't. This is unnecessary, one of the men said, standing. He was older, his hair neatly combed, his expression practiced. We had an understanding. Gabriel stopped walking. We had silence, he corrected, not understanding. The man's gaze slid to Lena. She's the problem? Lena stiffened. She's the proof, Gabriel replied. Another man scoffed. A poor girl who overheard a bedtime story. Lena's voice surprised even herself. You killed her. The room went still. Marisol's breath caught. Gabriel didn't look at Lena, but she felt the shift beside her, the acknowledgement that something irreversible had just been said. You shouldn't let her speak, the first man said coldly. Gabriel finally turned to face them fully. You don't get to decide that anymore, he said. What followed wasn't shouting, it was worse. Facts. Gabriel laid out documents on the table, medical records, financial transfers, shipping logs, names that matched too cleanly to be coincidence. Rosa Calderon's notes, preserved and hidden for a decade, projected onto the far wall. She documented everything, Gabriel said, including who ordered the fire. The older man's face hardened. That was handled. No, Gabriel said, it was postponed. Lena's heart pounded. So what? Another man snapped. You bring us here to reminisce? I brought you here, Gabriel replied evenly, to decide how this ends. Marisol spoke up, voice shaking but firm. You stole lives, mine, hers. Silence followed. One of the men laughed nervously. You think this changes anything? Yes, Gabriel said. Because I'm done absorbing your mess. The first man leaned forward. If you go public, you burn too, Gabriel nodded. I know, and you do that, the man pressed, for a girl who said a name. Gabriel finally looked at Lena. No, he said. For the woman I failed, and for the girl who reminded me I still could choose. The air felt charged now. End her, one of the men said abruptly. This all goes away. Lena's stomach dropped. Gabriel's voice turned deadly calm. Say that again. The man shrugged. She's leverage, remove her, we're back to equilibrium. Marisol stepped in front of Lena without thinking. Gabriel didn't shout. He reached into his jacket and placed a phone on the table. One tap. The screen lit up. A live feed, police lights flashing, officers moving through an office building. Names being called out. Task Force, Gabriel said. They've had these files for 6 hours. The men stared. You wouldn't, the first man said. I already did, Gabriel replied. One by one, color drained from their faces. This is a mistake, someone muttered. No, Gabriel said. This is the cost. Outside, sirens grew louder. One of the men bolted for the door. Gunshots cracked short, controlled. The man dropped before he reached the exit. Lena screamed and covered her ears. Gabriel didn't flinch. This ends now, he said to the remaining men. You walk out alive and answer questions, or you don't walk out at all. The choice was brutal. They chose to walk. As officers stormed the building minutes later, Lena stood shaking, tears streaming down her face, the weight of what she'd witnessed finally crashing into her. Marisol held her tightly. It's over, her aunt whispered, but Lena knew better. Later, as dawn broke pale over the water, Gabriel stood alone near the edge of the pier. Lena approached slowly. You didn't have to do that, she said softly. Yes, Gabriel replied, I did. She hesitated. What happens to you now? He smiled faintly. That depends on how much the truth costs. She looked out at the horizon. I never wanted to be brave. Gabriel met her gaze. You weren't brave, you were honest. A phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't answer it. Instead, he looked at Lena and said, After today, your life will change. She swallowed. For better or worse, for real, he said. As the sun rose fully, painting the water gold, Lena understood something with painful clarity. Speaking one name had forced men who lived in shadows into the light. And once that happened, nothing, absolutely nothing, could go back to the way it was. The city didn't explode after that night. It exhaled. That was what surprised Lena most. She expected sirens for days, headlines screaming corruption. Violence spilling into the streets like it always did in stories about men like Gabriel Knox. Instead, things unraveled quietly. Executives resigned. Clinics closed for renovation. Accounts were frozen. Names disappeared from websites overnight. The kind of damage that didn't look dramatic but never healed. Lena watched it all from her apartment couch, wrapped in a blanket, her phone resting untouched beside her. Aunt Marisol sat across from her, hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on the muted television. They're calling it an internal audit, Marisol said softly. Like that makes it smaller. It doesn't, Lena replied. It just makes it easier to swallow. Marisol nodded. For the first time in years, the weight in her shoulders looked lighter. Gabriel Knox didn't call for 3 days. No instructions, no updates, no reassurances. Lena told herself she didn't care. On the 4th day, a car pulled up outside her building. Not black, not intimidating, just gray, ordinary. Her phone rang. Come downstairs, Gabriel said. She did. He stood beside the car, hands in his pockets, no entourage, no urgency. He looked human. You look tired, Lena said. So do you, he replied. They sat inside the car without going anywhere. It's done, Gabriel said finally. She nodded. I know. He studied her face. You don't look relieved. I am, she said. I just don't know what comes next. Gabriel leaned back. For you? He asked. Normal life. She laughed quietly. Is that even possible after this? Yes, he said, because I made sure it would be. She turned to him. And you? His mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I don't get normal, he said. I get accountable. Her chest tightened. Jail, eventually, Gabriel replied calmly. Testimony first. She stared at him. You're turning yourself in. I'm finishing what Rosa started, he said, and what I failed to do the first time. The name still hit differently, Rosa Calderon. She trusted you, Lena said. Yes, Gabriel replied, and I trusted silence. He looked out the window. That was my mistake. Weeks passed. Lena went back to work, the laundromat stayed open, the world kept spinning, but something inside her had shifted. She walked differently now. Spoke with more certainty, stopped apologizing before she'd even finished a sentence. One afternoon, a nurse knocked on her door. "I'm looking for Lena Morales," she said. "That's me." The woman smiled. "My name is Rosa Calderon." The world tilted. Rosa looked older than Lena imagined, softer, alive. They sat at the kitchen table for hours. Rosa explained everything, the hiding, the protection, the years of silence, the guilt of surviving when others hadn't. "I never thought my name would come back," Rosa said quietly. Lena swallowed. "I didn't know it mattered." "That's why it mattered," Rosa replied. The trial didn't last long. Too much evidence, too many witnesses, too many men eager to trade loyalty for leniency. Gabriel Knox took the stand on the third day. He didn't look at Lena in the gallery. He didn't need to. His voice was steady, precise, unforgiving, especially toward himself. When it was over, he turned once briefly and nodded. "Not goodbye, thank you." Years later, Lena would sometimes think back to the laundromat, to the hum of machines, the careless way a name slipped from her mouth. The moment her life bent without warning, she never became famous. She never became powerful. She became honest, without fear, and that was enough. Because one poor girl had mentioned one name casually, and the most dangerous man in the room had chosen to stop lying to himself.